started with several government buildings going up in flames. First, it was the devastating fire in Parliament, followed by one of the Justice Department buildings in Cape Town. Other fires happened at the Waterkloof Airport Base, Komani Hall in the Eastern Cape. And then there was the attack on the Constitutional Court building with a hammer. In his blog, www.kunjalod.co.za, political analyst Dumisani Tembe argues that South Africa's transition to a non-ANC government will be chaotic. What will the impact be on the country's development, as both the political system and the political leadership across the board will be the order of the day? Well, let's pose some of these questions to Dumisani Tembe. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. The ANC may experience a decline of the national vote. You've explored in your article some of the scenarios that may play out, especially considering the research that's come out with institutions indicating that it's likely that the ANC will hover around 40% come the forthcoming general elections. Let's talk about some of these dynamics. Okay, I appear to have lost political analyst Dumisani Tembe, but we will be getting hold of him to explore more of these dynamics as we look at the political nature and the atmosphere at play within the political streets. Okay, I understand we have Dumisani Tembe back. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. You penned in your article perhaps saying that the ANC may experience a decline of the national vote. You painted out some of the scenarios, speaking to what will happen in the forthcoming general elections. Let's talk about some of the dynamics at play.
Well, thanks to you and good morning to the viewers. Look, I was trying to figure out as to what is likely to happen if the ANC was to lose absolute majority to form a government. And I came to the conclusion that perhaps the next government will be a set of coalitions, either a coalition led by the ANC or a coalition led by the opposition against the ANC. But in the sum total of all of this, we are likely to see a chaos, both in terms of government but also in terms of the oversight institutions, the likes of legislature, provincial legislatures, and also the National Assembly. So the horrible thing that I'm painting, unfortunately, is that when we have a weak political parties, if you have weak political parties to a point where political parties form an anti-ANC coalition government, then you are likely to have a series of chaotic events or a chaotic situation, because there is no center of power, either within the would-be ruling party or the opposition at the time. So the transition is likely to be chaotic.
As you make mention of chaos, as you and I speak, we know of the fierce battles over control of municipalities in KZN between the ANC and the IFP, which persists. This is almost 3 months after the local government elections, which really speaks to the importance of coalitions and the nature of coalitions, which is something that you also explore in your piece.
Yes, but you see, in the South African political scenario, coalitions, as far as I see them, I think they are unnecessary because they are not driven by a common vision. They are not driven by a common perspective to develop communities or society as a whole. The bulk of coalitions that we have in this country are the coalition of the political elite who are trying to survive them. They are self-inspired. They are not motivated by a greater good. So that's why from time to time you will hear the opposition say that they will form a coalition with anyone except the ANC. But in most of these coalitions, they come after the election, when politicians are trying to find themselves a space or a niche or from in the Metro Council in this case. So that's the problem of the coalition in this country. They are not motivated by a greater good, a common vision of what needs to be done for society. And it's a very dangerous type of coalition because those that fall out from the coalition, then they create chaos for those that form a coalition that won. So you've seen after the 2016 local government election, the city of Tshwane was very dysfunctional. Similarly, there are symptoms of dysfunctionality in the city of Joburg now. Now, this, as we see them, these are the likely scenarios we are likely to see in the National Assembly after the next election when a new government is formed through coalition, which might exclude the ANC. And the problem is that when there are these fragile and freaking coalitions, there's no center of authority, so it becomes free for all. And that's a seed for chaos.
You speak about dysfunctionality and make mention of the National Assembly. And over the past few months, we've seen the disruption of public and state institutions and buildings. Is it a coincidence?
Look, I think that invites two possibilities. Either we get the conspiracy theorists, so we go that route, or we speak to spiritualists, people who can read things that the rest of us cannot see.
Yeah.
But from the look of things, it looks like it could be engineered somewhere. The issue is, though, what are they trying to achieve if there's this series of destruction of public institutions? So it's not clear what the end goal is. But symbolically, it manifests or it mimics the state of this country. It's on an emergency basis. It needs an urgent leadership. It needs a political leadership that can, at this point in time, jump and try to govern or to lead in a manner that shows that we are in a crisis. So I think symbolically for me, it might mean that South Africa is literally on fire, and that calls for a good political leadership.
You speak of leadership, and in the leadership to personal appropriation of the ANC comes the topic of factional battles, where members are seeking to outclass and outshine one another, especially in the build-up to elections. Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, also stirring up the hornet's nest with her recent attacks on the judiciary. Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane at the moment is trying to get a sense of the investigation on those leaked audios with President Cyril Ramaphosa. And the front page of the Sunday Independent is also speaking and naming suspended ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule, former State Security Minister Thomas Bongo, who are expected to depose affidavits that would put Ramaphosa at the center of the issue around the breach of his oath of office. Really interesting dynamics playing out.
Yeah, look, the problem of our political leadership, it's not what we call a serving leadership. In most cases, all of these fractional battles that you have articulated, they have very little to do with society. They are more about individuals who seek to rise to the positions of authority, but mainly for themselves and those that are around them. And that's where the problem is, because in most cases, organizations throughout the world, or in this country, whether it's political parties or whether it's churches or other organizations, they do have factions. They do have different groupings. But the problem with the type of the factionary within the ANC is that for the ANC, it destroys the ANC itself. It's not like they are differing on the issues of policy or thinking. It's just about access to position. So if you look at these letters that you are talking about, the opinion pieces and the counter-opinion pieces, they have little to do with building the ANC as the ruling party. But they have more to do with character assassination of one. And all of this happens within the leadership of the ANC. So this is why in this article that you are referring to, I'm saying that the ANC will continue to degenerate without any recourse. because it is cannibalizing itself. And the problem here is the leadership, is not the members. It's not the members of the ANC. So we do have the poverty of leadership across political spectrum in the country.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Political analyst Dumisani Tembe, they're speaking to elements of the opinion piece he wrote on his blog, gunjalo.d.co.za.